That takes
not to
long.
not to call our bosses uncreative. I'm not, but
Right.
I think Conan O'Brien, he now is a really popular podcast. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, Free Pub, and he was a late night show for host for 30 years of our generation, I think, Jackie. And he said,
Right.
in terms of like a writer's room, like an old timey writer's room with like typewriters, and like sometimes there'd be like old studio exec would walk through, and if they didn't hear the clickety clack of typewriter fingers, they thought the writers were not being productive. And Conan's argument was, well, when you're in that writer's room and you're coming up with ideas and you're goofing around with your friends, you're trying to find that joke or refine the pitch to whatever they're writing, like uncreative people think productivity is what creating stuff is. Like they think that action is progress. And sometimes inaction is the most creative thing we can do. Like if I was sitting on my desk with my feet up and I was reading a book and someone walked by, I could tell you some of the people in my world would walk by and think, why isn't that guy working? What's he doing? Sitting here in his office reading with his feet up. Whereas, I mean, they don't know. I'm not reading my fun books at work. I mean, I do that on my porch at night. I may be reading a book that will help me cultivate some new idea that may in 6 months result in something cool for my students. But they'll take that as like, oh, he's just being lazy, he's hanging out. It's like, no, that's what creativity
Right.
looks like sometimes. We got to produce. I'm not saying that, the world will grind to a stop if we're all just pie in the sky. But I wish we had more. I think in the pursuit of efficiency, we've lost, as we mentioned, the sort of childish joy of existing. And we've also lost the ability or the time to really innovate creatively, because
Yes.
that time that we spend deeply thinking and considering and iterating something that starts as probably fairly lame but could end up being pretty cool, that all doesn't result in anything immediately. And a lot of our systems, especially as they become corporatized, we need results yesterday. And creativity is tomorrow's game, and they don't sometimes play well together. So that's always been the tension, I think, and it seems to be increasingly so in this era.
Absolutely. That's so true. I love how you mentioned, Lou, and when I was researching for this interview and everything, how you talk about those small intentional moments of human connection that make education transformative. And we've been talking about that in a sense too. So for you, what do you think that actually looks like in practice for instructors like you and I who want to create more meaningful learning experiences for our students?
I think about this a lot because I think about my own life a lot. So I went to college, 41, so like 20-ish years ago. And I remember two things. I remember that my philosophy professor's extra credit question was always Renee Zellweger, the actress. And there was one poli-sci professor who passionately endorsed the idea of politicians dueling each other with flintlock handguns.